world that works for everyone. So when we think about or we hear that phrase, there's a gift in everything, don't we often think about being told, well, look for the silver lining in the clouds? Or people always love to hear when we say, oh, it's a growth opportunity. It's the opportunity to find a way to improve our life and our soul. And so we're looking for that growth opportunity. We're looking for the silver lining. We're looking for that gift. But essentially, aren't what we're looking for, or isn't what we're looking for, something that will make us feel better about that situation? We're looking for a way that that situation can serve us and make us feel better. We're looking for a way to be more comfortable with something that might be making us uncomfortable. And sometimes, good old feedback. Sometimes, doesn't it feel like you're digging through a garbage heap looking for some sort of inadvertently cast off little piece of gold that someone might have thrown away? I think many of us are familiar with that story that I think has been shared from here in different versions of it. But essentially the man that has a son and his son breaks his leg, and the neighbors all go, oh, that's so bad that your son broke his leg. And he says, well, maybe, or maybe so, maybe not. Yeah, and then the soldiers come through and they want to take all the young men off to war. And then the neighbors are like, oh, you're so lucky your son broke his leg. And he says, well, maybe so, maybe not. And the story goes on back and forth, where everything that happens to him, the neighbors are going, oh, that's good, or oh, that's bad. And he's going, well, maybe so and maybe not. And I think the reason that we like that story is because it helps us to think about the fact that everything that happens to us can be seen as either positive or negative depending on that surrounding situation or what's going on in our life or the perspective that we take on that thing. And so it helps us to think about saying, well, maybe so, maybe not, remembering to stay in that middle ground. But essentially, it helps us to feel better if we're in a situation and we think, oh, well, maybe this will shift and become something that feels good to us. And yet, it dawned on me as I was thinking about this idea of a gift in all things, that essentially what we're doing as we're seeking that gift in anything that's going on in our environment is we're seeking a way to have our happiness out there impact us in here. Yet again. We're seeking a way for us to see that and have that make us happier. So whether we change our thinking about it or whether it changes, that's really what we're doing is we're looking for that gift in all things that are going on out there. When we look for that silver lining in the cloud, we're essentially saying, what's in it for me? How will this make me feel better? Or where's my prize for enduring this anyway? You know, how am I going to be repaid for putting up with whatever it is that's going on? And then it dawned on me. Surprise! You and I are the gift. You and I are the gift. So let's think about that. If you've ever had issues, or you've known somebody that's had issues, maybe you end up fighting with every single person that you meet, or you go from job to job to job to job, and you've heard people say either consider the common denominator. Who's the common denominator? Me, if I'm the one that's having that experience, or the person that you're watching go through this, is a common denominator. And so I started thinking, well, if I am looking at something and I'm seeing it as bad, if I'm arguing with someone about something or unhappy with them, if I am feeling afraid about whatever's going on out there or even in here, what's the common denominator? Me. I'm the common denominator. And as I started thinking about that, I said, well, and who am I? Who am I? I'm God expressing in every moment. And if I'm God expressing, then that means I'm good expressing. I'm love expressing, I'm peace expressing, I'm harmony expressing. And if that's true, then the gifts that I'm seeking out there are already right here. I am the gift. then I realized that in order for me to be the most wonderful gift possible, then I have to stay centered in the truth of who I am. We talked a few months ago about our true nature. And so my true nature, being that God expressing in and through me, being good, being love, being peace, the more that I am in alignment with that, the greater the gift is that I bring into whatever the situation might be. So like the New Thought song says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are that gift out there. So it's not a matter anymore of sitting around and waiting to see how this evolves so I can figure out what my gift is in it. It's not about waiting for the cloud to reveal its silver lining. It's not about sort of sitting there going, what is in this for me? It's about realizing that no matter how rough and tumble that playground of life gets, I am a gift in every situation. Whether I'm involved in it, whether I'm witnessing it, whether I'm thinking about it in my head, I am that gift. So usually when we hear someone say, oh, she thinks she's God's gift to the world, we're talking about someone who thinks that they are so wonderful that everyone should love them no matter what they do. But the truth is, we are God's gift to the world. We are God expressing in the world. And the reason is because when we are in our center, we are filled with God, which is love, and we are bringing love out as opposed to expecting it all to come in. We are God's gift to the world. And then once we bring that love out into the world, then that's when we get to experience that gift as well, because we know what we give, we receive. So there is the gift. There is the silver lining. Once we recognize we are the gift, and the more of that we bring, the more of that then we start to receive. So if we are the gift, how can we become the most wonderful gift possible? How can we be just absolutely the best thing that ever took place? Well, I want to read to you a book that I just started reading. It's by Marianne Williamson called Everyday Grace, Having Hope, Finding Forgiveness, and Making Miracles. And in here she says, and she reminds us, we cannot give what we do not have. We cannot bring peace to the world if we ourselves are not at peace. We cannot bring love into the world if we ourselves are not loving. Our true gift to ourselves and others lies not in what we have, but in who we are. I just think that's wonderful. I love that sentence. Our true gift is to ourselves and to others is not what we have, but who we are. So we are that gift then in every situation. And like she said then, we need to fill ourselves up with what it is we want to see in that situation. So that reminded me then of the importance of our spiritual practice. I think I've shared from here before that when I became a minister, my brother told me, well, now your spiritual practice is your job. And yet, as I thought about this, I thought, well, it's not just the ministers and the practitioners who have the ability to bring that gift into the world. It's all of us. And so everyone's spiritual practice is their job, especially when we want to see this world working for everyone. When I was out in California visiting my brother, he gave me another book, which I'm really enjoying. And Kathy, I think we need this in the bookstore. Meditation as Medicine. Activate the Power of Your Natural Healing Force. It's by Dharma Singh Khalsa and Cameron Stuth. And I love the books that bring together the physical and the medical experiments that they do that prove that what we have been teaching works really does work. So that's what this book is all about. And he's taking it to a different level. He is a Sikh, the main author is a Sikh, and so they teach Kundalini Yoga. So he's combined different forms of meditation with Kundalini Yoga and hand shapes and body postures to bring about what he calls medical meditation. and I have to be careful I don't say medical something else, medical meditation is what we're working on here in this book. And so I wanted to share with you one of the things that he says in here. When you meditate, your rational thought processes housed in your cortex begin a quiet dialogue with your brain's emotional centers, the hippocampus and amygdala. Good luck. Both of which are in your limbic system. Are y'all with me? Yes. He goes on, you shift into a relaxed alpha brainwave pattern in your nervous system is dominated by the inhibitory parasympathetic branch. Okay. There's a lot more in there. I love this stuff. I love seeing what's going on physically with us when we're working with our spirit and our brain. But what he says at the end of this paragraph I think is most important. He wraps it up with, the attitude of meditation, devoid of self-criticism and judgment of others, is really one of love. Thus, in a real sense, love heals. That we can all understand. And so the whole point of this book is to teach how it is, what's going on in our physical being. And he also teaches then different kinds of meditations, different mantras, different ways of sitting and being with the meditation to focus on specific healing areas in the body. And altogether, he says, when all of the elements of medical meditation are put together and practiced with regularity and enthusiasm, I like that, with regularity and enthusiasm, it constitutes a daily spiritual practice called sadhana. Doing your daily sadhana is like putting money in your spiritual bank account, and not only helps relieve and reverse existing conditions, but it also prevents illness. Even more important, it is the key to spiritual realization and inner peace, which is the ultimate foundation of health. So that's just the beginning. I'm only about that far through this so far. But Ernest Holmes puts the same idea with a little different twist to it. But this idea again that we need to be healthy. We need to have our own inner healing before we can go out there and be the most wonderful gift that we can be. And so Holmes says in the Science of Mind text, as we come into the spiritual realm, which is a perfectly natural and normal realm, we have to come into it in its own nature. It is a unity. There must be nothing vicious in it. Remember what Jesus said. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled with thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Why? Because we cannot enter into peace while we are in a state of confusion. It cannot be done. We cannot manifest love when we have a mental equivalent of hate in our hearts and minds. And so there again, it's our spiritual practice, and it's taking that spiritual practice out into the world and putting it to use, making sure that we're at peace with our brethren, our brothers and sisters, our family members, those that are not part of our immediate family. We practice, and that then is the equivalent, I think, of putting that gift on the altar. We are the gift. So once we've healed ourselves, once we move into that spiritual practice and bring ourselves to that place of being whole and being that expression of God or love in the world, then we are that gift in every situation. Or like Marianne Williamson said, we're that the gift of who we are is the greatest gift that we give ourselves and others. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. As I got this, this sort of clicked in a different way as I was thinking about this. I realized I don't have to wait around anymore to find out what the gift is. It's right here. Now what I look at is how can I be that gift in that situation? I have to remember that it's me bringing love, bringing peace, bringing wholeness into the situation that is the gift. And so the more and more that we unwrap ourselves, that gift, in the presence of others, the more then we also experience that gift. So speaking of unwrapping gifts, how many of you are the kind of person that unwraps your gifts really slowly, really carefully, saves the paper, folds it up? I know you are. Doesn't want to rip anything. Yes, good, okay. And then how many of you like to just rip into it and tear it open? Oh, we've got some of those too. So once you do that, is the gift any different, whether you've opened it slowly or whether you've ripped into it? Is the gift inside any different? Has the gift been changed? No. So since we are the gift, how are we unwrapped? And actually, first of all, what are we wrapped with? Well, as Ernest Holmes refers to it, we are the individualized expressions of God. So we are God wrapped in who we are. We are God wrapped in our personality, expressed through how we dress, how we speak, how we look, how we think, how we interact in the world, our persona. And I think most of us try and wrap ourselves nice and pretty for the world, how we express ourselves out in the world. We like to think that we're wrapped up pretty nice. And so sometimes people take their time with us. They admire our wrapping, and they gently unpeel it from us as we get to know each other, and they get to experience the gifts that we have to offer. But sometimes there are people that just tear into us, that rip us apart, to just pull that wrapping right off. They don't appreciate that wrapping and who we are. But is the gift inside any different? When someone comes to you and starts tearing you apart and ripping that apart, do they get the gift of God expressing as love and joy and peace? Or do they get a gift that suddenly become retaliation, judgment, anger, meanness, and ill will? As we begin to really get that we are the gift in every single situation and every circumstance in our life, then we can really get that no matter how we are unwrapped, no matter how someone might disregard that outer who we are and how we present in the world, the gift that we have to offer inside is still the same. The gift is God expressing as love, as peace. That diamond is always a potential within the coal. And God expressing as love and peace within each and every one of us is always that potential. So what gift do people get when you are unwrapped? Recently on Facebook, I saw a sign. Somebody posted a picture of themselves holding a sign, and it put a twist on a sentence that I think most of us are familiar with that comes out of the Serenity Prayer. And that sentence is, accept the things you cannot change. And the sign said, I will change the things I cannot accept. Yeah. Now, I liked that. I like both. I think both are important in their place. But what I think is really important is how we go about doing change, how we go about bringing change into a situation. If we are the gift, and if we are bringing the gift of change, then I think how we do that is where we are at choice. How it is we want to be that change out there in the world when we see that it might be necessary. Again, in Marianne Williamson's book here, she says, according to Gandhi, how we do something is as important as what we are trying to do. Because ultimately, whatever we do will be determined by how we do it. Who we are as we go through a process, whether we choose integrity, faith, and compassion, or their opposites, affects the outcome of the situation more powerfully than the mortal mind admits. Love is a process as well as the goal. Love is the process as well as a goal. And earlier in the book, she's talking about how everything we encounter throughout the day is a spiritual opportunity. Doesn't that sound like what I said, that growth opportunity? Everything we encounter is a spiritual opportunity, but she adds, if we approach it with love. Every moment challenges us to rise to our highest, to choose strength over weakness, forgiveness over blame, faith over faithlessness, and love over fear. And when we can't, we ask God to help us. In choosing love, we are choosing to be healed from the forces that could hold us back. Love heals the world by healing our minds, for that which is healed on the level of consciousness is healed on the level of ultimate cause. And so I really like that, to think about love as the process as well as the goal. So as we choose then to be the gift of change, or if we do choose to be the gift of change, we can also choose to bring the gift of love as that gift into any situation. Think about what Reverend Bonnie Allen Rice was talking about last week, the situation between her and her daughter, and how she spent time in meditation just saying, I am a bridge of love from my heart to your heart. And she kept meditating on seeing a bridge of love from her heart to her daughter's heart. And healing finally took place between them. She didn't have to go out and do anything and beg for her daughter to relate to her. She just sat there in meditation in her spiritual practice and saw that bridge of love going from her heart to her daughter's heart. And so that allowed that healing to take place. So as I continued thinking about being the gift, I had another kind of gift pop into my mind, and at this point, some of you who know me are going to think, wow, her mind just goes all over the place. But I started thinking about another kind of gift, one that I was reminded of in a history class. It's a gift that was left outside the walls of Troy by the Greeks. And Larry, so if you don't know the story, you've probably heard it called a Trojan horse. And so I was thinking about that as a gift. And I thought about how, if you don't know the story, the Greeks were trying to win over Troy. They wanted the city for themselves, and they were battling it out, and they weren't making it. And there were two different renditions I found on the internet for how they got this wooden horse into the city. But the Greeks came up with this idea of creating this big, huge wooden horse on wheels that they put soldiers in. And the horse eventually ends up in the city, and when the city goes to sleep at night, the soldiers come out and take over the city. So that does seem like a violent story, and that's not what I'm saying we're to do. But I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about being a gift that's kind of like that silent, still Trojan horse. And sometimes I feel like we get pushed into places where we feel like we might be among the enemy, which is where that horse ended up until they all went to sleep. And so I started picturing myself then being a Trojan horse filled with love, filled with the tools that I get from doing my spiritual practice. And when I end up in that kind of a situation, being able to open up and let those things out. Sometimes when we're in situations, we might hear things that we cannot accept, and we'd like to see them change. Things, in my mind, like racism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, hatred of any kind, homophobia, xenophobia, all of those. And so I saw myself as this Trojan horse sitting there, and if I witnessed that, opening up and allowing love out, allowing myself to speak the truth in that moment. And the reason I think I saw this is because there have been many times in my life, especially around the issue of homophobia, because that's a personal issue, where I sat there like a wooden horse, still, quiet, and didn't say anything. It just happened around me because I could pass. And so I wanted my new mantra after I started thinking about this to be, first of all, I am the gift. And second of all, I am a Trojan horse filled with the tools of love to allow out in any situation. I want to speak up. I want to speak the truth. I want to speak it in love. And so I'm not talking about violence. And I think this is what makes it really difficult. Sometimes we don't know what to say or how to say something loving, especially if we're seething inside that silent case that we might be in. So it's not about bringing violence in. It's not about trying to go in and win or prove someone wrong. It's not about thumping them over the head with the Bible or the Science of Mind textbook. It's not about saying, I am the gift, and so you guys get enlightened my way and everything will be just perfect, or else. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how do we infiltrate with love? How do we see ourselves sort of rolled into any situation and allow that love to speak through us? And I think it has to start by listening. We have to listen with love. We have to understand and be open to understanding in a loving way. We have to allow that gentleness and kindness to be present. We let love shine the light on the situation, whether that means through educating or sharing or enlightening in some way, but not, shoving it down someone's throats. We bring love into the situation by seeing love in everyone. We do believe that God is expressing as every single person on this planet. And we bring it by being that bridge, allowing that bridge of love from our heart to their heart and back. Taking that time to allow that love to develop. In Marianne Williamson's book, she talks about a third grade teacher who, when her class is spinning out of control and just going crazy, she goes, "Stop!" Now, what's the next sentence? Stop. There we go. Stop in the name of love. Stop. And then she goes, breathe. And all the kids breathe with her. And she goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they all tap their head and breathe. And she brings the situation back down into that place of, again, stillness, that place where they can think and get control of what's going on in the situation. So, if and when this world is going to work for everyone, I believe that we must remember that we are the gift. We are God expressing. We are good expressing. We are love expressing. We are peace, harmony, wholeness, prosperity expressing. Right now, like Bonnie Allen Rice said, right now we are that. We are that. And we have the power to say in any situation, stop. In the name of love, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and diffuse the situation. And allow that connection of love to take place. There is a gift in all things and in all situations. And you and I are it. And so it is.